I love to learn. I'm a big
Yep.
learner. I feel like I learn every day something new. I have no idea how to be a CEO of a company that's tomorrow's days old. Like, I've never done it. I'm not a second, third, fourth time CEO. This is the first, when you are in a relationship and you're like, oh my God, this is my longest relationship to date. I've never been married before. I've never been a mom before. I know how to be a wife yesterday. I know how to be a mom yesterday. Tomorrow, I will learn something new, and I love that. It
Yeah.
scares me, but I love it.
Today, we have a woman who hailed originally from Belgium and has a company called Belgian Boys. And we've already made such a connection the 2 minutes we chatted before we went live that I am just going to, without any further ado, introduce you to today's guest, Anouck Gotlib. Did I say that right?
Yes, yes. Hi, and
All
thank you so
right,
much for having
welcome.
me. Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to talk to you this morning.
This is great. This is great. So we were talking, and Anouck was starting to tell me the story of how she met her husband, and I said, "Please stop. I think you need to have the listeners hear this. So why don't you start with that?"
Sometimes in the movies you hear like, you see that two people meet in a plane and then like all their life is changed and you're like, oh, that only happens in movies. And it's crazy, but like a plane ride truly can change your life. I mean, for me, it did. I met my husband on a flight from Belgium to New York, Brussels to New York. My background's fashion design. So I was coming here as a young 20-year-old for to the fashion capital of the world, to New York. I had an internship here. I was super excited. New York Fashion Week, and I met a guy on a plane. That was Greg,
Now, were you
and
sitting next to him?
I was not sitting next to him.
Are you in first class or business class or the regular cattle car?
I was in the back. I was in the back.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Yes, and we met on that plane though, and
Oh, you wait. Were you back by the bathrooms? So when he went to the bathroom, he saw you?
no, so we're actually, Greg and I are from the same community in Antwerp. We grew up in the same town in Antwerp, Belgium. And so we knew of each other, but we didn't know each other. We differ 5 years. So when he went to college 18 years old, I was 13 years old. Like, I didn't, he was a big guy. I was like a small girl. And so we
A big
recognized.
guy. I was a small girl. Okay.
Yeah. But like we did recognize each other. Like I think he's from the same town. And so he actually, this is the real, we're getting into the real story of how we met.
Yes,
And
because everybody could read the nonsense that you said
right.
on your website, but I'm like, oh, there's more to this story.
So he saw me at check-in actually. And he's like, oh, I'll change seats with the person next to her so that I can be next to her in the plane.
And that's a long flight.
Right. And so he finds me in the plane with this like master plan, and I'm sitting next to my mom. So he couldn't change seats. But we didn't spend the plane ride together. But then I was looking for an apartment in New York. And I'm like, oh, well, he's like, what are you doing? What are you going to do in New York? I think I didn't even speak to him. I think it was my mom that spoke to him. How's your mom? This, that. And it's like, yeah, we're looking for an apartment for Anouk for this summer for an internship. It's like, oh, I know, I'm in real estate. I can help you. He was, no, absolutely not. He was just trying
That's
to.
so funny.
And anyway, that was the start of our story.
Well,
Back
no, you
when
have to tell us
Continental
more.
Air, back when Continental Airline was still operating. So
Wow.
we're vintage.
Wow. Wow. But then you were in New York and did he live in New York or was he going to work in New York?
Yes. So Greg at that time lived in New York. Greg went to college in Boston and then moved to New York. And he was doing his life here. And he had in the beginning a espresso shop on Union Square. That went
Union Square, Manhattan.
Union Square, Manhattan. That was his first business endeavor. It was, 24 hours, 7, you're in that shop.
Yeah.
Very, very demanding. And in the end, that didn't go according to plan. But he overheard someone talking on the phone about Costco. And he's like, Costco. He's like, I want to sell Costco. It's like, you have a pastry shop in Union Square making fresh croissants and espressos. What do you mean you want to sell Costco? And we're making fresh waffles, everything European, that bakery. And that was really what started this Belgian Boys journey. When Greg and I were dating, he was like, yeah, I want to start this brand. And instead of having a shop where we can only sell to a couple, like, let's go and start this CPG brand. And I said, Greg, I love this idea, but we gotta create a brand. We need to tell a story. We need to make, I was in my fashion years. I was like, let's make clothes for your waffles and your packaging and your pancakes. And that's really what started. The brand was born out of the nostalgia that we had for our authentic traits. Greg, even in the dorms, that's really when he started thinking about this. In the dorms in Boston, he was bringing waffles and cookies and chocolates for his friends for himself. And his friends in the dorms were like, oh my God, Greg, this is so good. Where can we buy it? Where can we find it? And he's like, how is this product not available in the US? How do US consumers eat Eggo waffles and Pop-Tarts when they wake up? Like, how? Why is there nothing better on the market? And that's really when he went into the pastry shop and then into let's just build something bigger where we can impact more people. And that was the start of Belgian Boys.
All right. So what did he do? Did he sell the pastry business and split screen? You're in New York doing fashion. So how did that evolve?
Yes. So when I met Greg, the pastry shop was already no longer. He already had sold that franchise, sold it. And he was like, I want to do this brand. And me at night, I was just basically using my Photoshop skills and helping
Photoshop.
the design, the logo, the ideation, the packaging, the origin, and lots of conversation, late nights, thinking, store visits, and then we started producing.
So as the EY Entrepreneurial Winning Woman of the Year, what did you do? How were you able, what exactly are you providing to the customer with Belgian Boys that separates you from the crowd?
So when I'll give a bit of a background. When Greg and I started, and we started with the whole brand and having product, we had an assortment, we started to present it to retailers. And we showed pancakes, crepes, waffles, and buyers told us, this is frozen breakfast, that the category you should sell in. And I'm like, what is frozen breakfast? Coming from Europe, I had never heard of frozen breakfast. In Europe, those products are merchandised refrigerated. And if you think about it, where in the store do you buy breakfast items? You buy eggs, you buy milk, you buy yogurt, you buy dairy, you buy orange juice. It's all in the fridge. What do you open when you wake up and you make your coffee? What do you open? Do you open your freezer or you open your fridge? You open the fridge, right? When you get ready for breakfast. We're like, there's something really odd here. Another thing we noticed is like Americans, you grab your coffee and you take it on the go and you run. Europeans, we sit down, we have coffee, we have a cookie next to it to just enjoy the moment. And I'm like, can we bring some of that Europeanness to the US consumer? Because frankly, the options, both in quality, taste, and how to experience, is not really where we have seen it. And we know that we can improve that for the consumer. Our mission as a company today is to spark moments of happiness, that moment of joy. That's where I envision with Greg when we see that family. If you think about it, that first hour of the day, it's stress just thinking about it, right? Especially for young families. You got to get yourself dressed. You got to get the kids dressed. Where is the lunchbox? Oh my God, we're missing a shoe. He's having a tantrum. We forgot that there is, I don't know, an excursion. There's so many things that you need to think about that first hour of the day. What we have for breakfast is not something we want to debate of. It's a habit. Breakfast is a habit-driven meal, the most important meal of the day, right? Yet I'm not having time to make pancakes from scratch, right? But I also don't want to sacrifice and give an Eggo waffle or a Pop-Tart because that's not the ingredient standards, even though I hear that my generation grew up in the US eating Eggo waffles and Pop-Tarts. That's not what this generation want to give the next generation.
Right.
So
That's
Belgian
right.
Boys is truly the solution for that, bringing that Europeanness to the mainstream American consumer. And listen, we have 2 kids. They're 4 and 6, 2 boys, only Belgian boys in my life. And
Exactly.
they get out of the door.
They went along with the brand. They were very cooperative.
Sure. Listen, Liam thinks his last name is Belgian Boys. He's like, hi, I'm Liam, Belgian Boys. What's your name? And I'm like, oh my God, this is like cute, but also embarrassing.
Yeah.
But, as a parent, your kids leave the door. They go to the school bus. You don't control anything that's going to happen in their day. They might have the best day ever, or they might be picked on, or they might be bullied. You have no idea. What you do control is to make sure that they leave your house, your home, with a smile. Can Belgian Boys be a part of that? And we believe we can.
That's great. That's great. So basically, I mean, I'm sure people are going to check you out. The Belgian Boys, the website, it is so cute. So did you create the branding with the little men with the hats? Was that you?
Originally, yes. I can't claim all of it. I worked with some graphic designers that had more experience in branding than me with my designing dresses. But yeah, originally, that's what I did for my boyfriend at night when I was still working in fashion.
That's your husband now, was your boyfriend.
My husband now, yes, my boyfriend then. And yeah, those were the early days.
Great. So now you and your husband and your family are living in Brooklyn. How did you end up going from how did you determine home base?
Well, I'm thinking. We were living in the city when we were just dating. And then after we got married and started to decide we want a family, we said, let's go to Brooklyn. And
well, why Brooklyn?
I don't know, honestly.
Well, did you decide or did Greg decide?
Well, we were exploring neighborhoods and, being in the city, you're so stressed and it's you get
overwhelmed.
You get out of your apartment and you're like, right?
Yeah.
And so we decided we wanted to get to a quieter neighborhood and where we could have establish more of a family life for us in the future, yet not be too far from the city. And Williamsburg really fit our vibe. It was an up and coming neighborhood back then. When we moved, there was, I don't want to say nothing yet here, but there was a Dwayne Reed and a HSBC Bank on our block. And now, it's exploded, this neighborhood. Yeah. So it's interesting to see how a neighborhood too can evolve in a decade.
Yeah, it is. It's fascinating. So tell us how you evolved the brand, because you're really exploding now yourself, right? So who does what? And then how do you manage that? You started the business. I guess you were married shortly thereafter, but you didn't have children. So your life has evolved a lot. So how are you making it all work for the listeners that want to know?
I don't think I am making it all work. I think they, like, what does it
Well, it
mean
looks
make
like
it all work? You're there's always going to be something that has to give in order for
yeah,
another thing to be
yeah,
running, right?
yeah.
And I think you need to just accept that, right? At the end of the day, I read a book, Simon Sinek's book,
Right.
about the infinite game.
Okay,
Have you?
yeah, yeah,
And I loved the notion of, what is success, and, in a finite game like a sport, soccer, whatever, there's beginning, middle, end. And at the end, there's a winner, there's a loser, and it's clear rules, and we all know who won, who lost.
right,
But
right,
in life and in business, there is no winner in the end, right? You can have milestones, you have goals, you have huge, huge achievements, but it's not like, hey, Anouck, you won, or hey, Greg, you lost at the game of
yeah,
life or business.
yeah,
And so, what is success? And to me, success is to have an amazing journey. Like today, I'm having an awesome conversation with you who interviewed these insane business leaders and personalities, and I'm talking to you, and I'm
uh-huh.
just enjoying that to the fully. I do a lot of mindfulness, and so being present in the moment is something
Hmm.
that I truly value. And when I'm with my sons, I try to be there with them. I wouldn't be a good mom, though, if I didn't feel professionally fulfilled, because that's something
Hmm.
that I do need for myself, for my team, for our business, in order to show up better at home.
Hmm.
I need to have that side of me. And in order to be a more empathetic leader and be a better at work, I need to come home and have these hugs and kids that say, Mom, you're the best, and you're going to rock, and be a role model for them as well. So how do you make it work? I think you need to acknowledge that you can't do it all by yourself, and be supported, and don't be afraid to ask for help. I mean, asking for help, in my opinion, is not a weakness. Asking for help is your biggest strength if you
Hmm.
know to ask
Right,
for help
right,
too, right? And you can't do it all by
by
yourself. And
yourself.
it's a
Right,
village. I mean,
right.
it does, right? So yeah, it's all about the journey.
So that's like so European. Are you amazed? Like, do you feel you've become Americanized at all? Or do you find yourself rushing and you're like, I can't believe it. I'm running through the streets with a cup of coffee in my hand, which I know is illegal in Europe.
So true. I mean, it's interesting because when I'm in an American crowd, I do feel very conscious about being the European in the crowd. I mean, just listen to
The
me talk.
accent doesn't give it away. Yeah.
I have the biggest accent in the world, right? For the life, I can't make it go away. I will.
Well, and I have the New York accent that people are like, oh my God, you're from New York.
Right, but it's like a tattoo, right?
Right.
It's part of you. It's part
You
of
are.
me. I am that's my upbringing. That's where I grew up, and it's a part of me that I really value. But then, super funny, I was in Europe in a crowd. It was like a business event, and there were conversation, and I was so uncomfortable because it was a very different kind of business conversation that I'm used to in America, where it's just there's the pace, we talk about weather, we talk about a lot of just those business
Boom, boom,
notions. And
boom,
I
boom,
felt
boom.
I look at Greg, I'm like, oh my God, I'm the American in the crowd. And it's
Give me
so
an example. You have to give me an example of that because I work all over too. So I was
it's
actually just talking to somebody yesterday and he's from Portugal. And he said, the Americans, like they glorify workaholism, right? Like my boss was saying, I do this on the weekends. And he's like, we don't think that's cool.
yeah, I mean, and I'm a workaholic too, right? I mean, I totally am. I genuinely love what I do, though. I wake up every day and I'm like, I love what I do. I feel super grateful. I get to do what I love with my husband and a group of amazing people that are so smart that I'm just like, how in the world did these people join my team? It blows me away every day. And I could talk about that thing that I love to do 24/7. And when you when you are in a conversation in Europe, it's very slow and yes, and where is the holidays going to be at? And oh, tell me more about that. And I'm just like,
We have an
interesting.
agenda.
It's like, yeah, it's like, and we're like, I'm like, time is money. Like, it's just
That is so American. That is so American.
And or I was taking a flight in Europe in August, early August. I flew from Brussels to Bentonville, Arkansas.
Okay. Bentonville, Walmart.
Yes, Walmart. So I checked in, I took a train to get to the airport, and you hear conversation. There was like not one work-related. People talked about holidays, about what they were buying. I listened to conversations about food, about experience, about the sun, I check in for my flight in Zaventem in Brussels, and then check, oh, Bentonville, that's somewhere I've never checked anyone into. I'm like, yeah, well, there's a first for everything. I had a connecting flight, and I land in Chicago for my connection. As soon as I get out of the plane, I hear two people conversation. So did you submit the bullet points with the presentation of the PowerPoint? And I'm just like, it's such a culture clash. As soon as I landed, I heard bullet points, PowerPoints. Did you get out that conference call? It was like the middle of August, and like you will never. And I went from a train to from an airport to an airport. It was just different worlds, different planets.
Well, in August, like nobody does work. Period. Like Americans know, like don't even send an email. No. It's useless. But I am so laughing because I took a flight here and I had my laptop because I wanted to do some more work on my PowerPoints. And I was so annoyed because the two people next to me worked together and they were working on their PowerPoints. Well, what are you doing? What are you going to present? And I'm like, I really need to concentrate. Like, I'm thinking to myself, could you shut up? So that's so funny.
Well, yeah, it's really a different, I think there are pros and cons in both. And
sure,
I think, brands like ours and like experiences and just like it starts with the small things. Can we bring a little bit of that, right? I'm not saying to the American workaholic, stop working. I'm just saying when you drink a coffee, just
give yourself 15 minutes.
Not even 15, forget 15, just take 5 minutes, drink your coffee and have a cookie with it and shut down your computer. Like nothing's going to happen, right?
Yeah.
Just listen to a song. I don't know, just...
You're right.
Yeah, go ahead.
So is that part of your brand when you say we want to make a living making people happy? Is that part of it? So how do you do that? How and by the way, where does your husband fall into this conversation? Has he become Americanized? Because he probably has similar challenges as well.
Yes, I mean, Greg has, I don't want to say no accent, but yeah, no, like you couldn't hear it. So
that's interesting. And he's from,
but he went to college here, so he's been way longer than me too.
Right. That makes a big difference. Yeah.
Yeah. So what he does in the business, Greg really deals with all the part that is product, innovation, manufacturer, supplier relationships. I mean, he's the visionary entrepreneur. And then I handle more of the front side of the business, which is conversations like these, leadership, team building, investor relationship, going to customer meetings, meeting with Walmart, Target, and our other customers. And Today I'm wearing black, but I usually wear pink most of the
You told
time.
me, yeah.
And I mean, how do we make happiness? Like we spark that moment of happiness, and it's through being there for the consumer when they need it, making it easier, quick, easy, convenient, delicious.
Well, that's very American.
Well, yes, but then with the European quality, right? Because
Yeah.
you're not going to, that is still a need for a European too, right? That
Okay.
first hour of the day, it's stressful for every, I mean, parents are our main customers. It's stressful for everyone, right? It doesn't matter at what time you wake up. Those last 10 minutes before you got to get out the door
Right.
are always stressful. And if you even think about just your own habits, I don't know what you eat for breakfast, but I can take a guess that you probably eat a version of the same thing every single morning, unless you're one of those people that don't eat breakfast. But there is not a lot of people that say, think about dinner or lunch, you'll have a salad, then steak, then pizza, then tacos, you'll vary what you're craving. It's not like anyone is having Monday pancakes, Tuesday acai bowl, Wednesday I'll have a granola, and Thursday let's do waffle, because why not? It's super habit driven. So how do we be there for our consumer to take that thinking and still give something that your kids can have an amazing day after, that you can have a great day? And then that experience that we try to bring, whether that's the shopping experience in the store, from merchandising refrigerated versus frozen, and bringing that Europeanness, our bright pink packaging, which I do think spark happiness, and everything that our team does, from our social to our customer service, every interaction that we have with our customers. I mean, that's my favorite part, to see our customers enjoy our product and see what we were able to do for them.
That's great. So there's a book called Rocket Fuel. So a rocket fuel. So your husband is the visionary and you're the integrator.
Yes, I get shit done.
Yeah, exactly. So where are you now in the business and the revenue, and what's the goal?
So 5 years ago, we were 5 people. We were a small team. 3 years ago, we were 5 people. That was just before the pandemic. In the pandemic, we were 5 people. The business has changed a lot in the last couple of years. Today, we're a team of 23, I want to say. Our business has exceeded 8 digits in revenue a while ago, and we just are reaching more households in the US. We're in over 7,000 stores, but it really feels like we're just getting started. I mean, we're only in retail and a fraction of the retailers in the US. We're nowhere yet. And that's an exciting part. I love that, because I feel, I mean, we started the business in 2015, so we've been doing this for a while, but to have the feeling that you're just getting started is pretty exciting. We bootstrapped our business for a long time. And then in 2021, 22, we felt like, okay, now we know what we're doing here. We know what the business is. We know what works. Refrigerated breakfast was something we were starting to get traction on, and felt like that was the thing that is there for us. And then we raised capital from my role model, which still, when I say this today, I still like, oh my God, how did my role model become my business partner? And we're lucky to have raised capital from Daniel Lubetsky, the founder of Kind. I mean,
Sure. Yeah.
Amazing story. Not only the brand that team built under Daniel's leadership, but the way they built it, and the way the thought leadership. It's just the personal values that I personally align to.
So hang on. So how did you meet Daniel, and how did he become your mentor? Because something tells me you reached out to him.
Super interesting, actually. I reached out. So remember COVID in New York? It was crazy.
Yep.
And so all of a sudden I saw a post. I was following Daniel on LinkedIn forever, like groupie, liking everything he does, and etc. And so they posted about starting this partnership called Frontline that was matching brands with hospitals and institutions so that brands could donate treats that could be given to the frontline workers. And I was like, oh my God, we need this. And so we started like just shipping cases with a Sharpie, writing thank you healthcare workers, and shipping them, because you don't know, I'm not going to ship it to NYU and like hospital, like you got to attention someone. So they were basically doing that matching program.
Yeah.
Still today we work with that team. And anyway, we had been working with that team for, I want to say, over a year, from 2020 till mid 2021. And at that time, Greg and I were like, okay, it's time. We're gonna find a strategic partner. And I'm like, let me ask. And so I asked that team, could you introduce me to Daniel, please? And I was like, from email to email to email to email to email, I got to his like chief of staff, Juliana, who's amazing. Shout out, Juliana, if you're listening, you're amazing. And she wrote me the most beautiful rejection email, wishing me the best of luck in our journey, that Daniel had many engagements and that being on our advisory board, because I didn't even ask him to invest. I was like, can you be on my advisory board as I go out and raise capital?
Yeah.
But he didn't have time to commit to that at that time. And we started raising, and a couple, like 6-7 months late after that interaction. And it was actually I pitched this VC, and they said, this is not for us, but let me introduce you to someone on Daniel Lubetsky's team. They're just opening a family office. And I was introduced to Ellie. And she was one of the early kind team members. And today they are, and I'm like, this is such a long shot and never, ever going to happen. I did tell her the story about that earlier interaction. And then, it's one of those things that you're like, every conversation, you're like, it's not going to happen. Okay, whatever, like stop dreaming.
Right.
And then there was this
Still try. Just still try.
And all of a sudden I was talking to him and I was just like, and totally starstruck. Anyway, fast forward, I learned so much from that team. I'm grateful. They've been super strategic and helpful in scaling our business in the last 2 years. And we're out there building the next big CPG brand. And I'm grateful for the people that I'm surrounded by.
That's great. But you were very smart and you identified people and you went for it and you didn't take the first no. I was struck by what you were saying about the healthcare workers, because one of my sons owns a restaurant. At the time, he had just one in San Francisco in the Mission District. And, he was able to not let go. It was fast casual. He was able to not let go of any of his staff for several reasons, the way he restructured things, but somehow he was able to connect with the Golden State Warriors and Stephen Kerr, and they were doing something with, I think, JP Morgan Chase, and they were feeding also the first responders and the homeless. And then he had gotten on a call with Stephen Kerr. No, I don't think he quite had the experience that you had, but it's one of those things where it's also one of those things where you're doing the right thing. And when you do the right thing, good things happen.
I'm a big believer that things happen in life. There is no coincidence in life.
Right.
And, you're a mirror of the people that surround you, right? And you seek out for those things, those qualities and those things.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of luck in life, but there's a lot of hard work too. And
the harder you work, the luckier you get.
I love that.
Right? The harder you work, the luckier you get. So how do you manage it? I have 4 children. I was always a working mom too. I do believe you can have it all. Maybe having it all not at the same exact time, but I raised 4 kids. I have my own business. I have my own marriage. I have my life. I kind of get annoyed when people say you can't have it all. I'm like, well, just because you can't have it all doesn't mean I can't have it all. But what's your philosophy on that, and how do you do the juggling? Because it definitely requires juggling, right?
Right. I mean, and I do think you can have it all, meaning what is important to you, right? But I don't think you can do everything, right?
Right,
Like
right.
I opted out of a lot of
Great,
things,
great
right? Like
differentiation. Yeah.
when I got the email, we need a mom of the class, I was like, I'm out. I'm not going to take that commitment to be
Right.
hosting the bake sales and this and that. And I respect the people that do make time for that, but I don't want to set up myself for failure for something that I'm going to be like, oh my God, I can't do this, and I'm going to stress me out. And like, I don't have to, I know that
By
I
the
don't.
way, Anouck, is that a very American thing? The class mom, because that's been going on for a long time.
Yeah, I mean,
This?
yeah, it's mostly American. Like
Okay.
yeah,
I just
and
had a sense. Yeah.
right, or like when we
In
got
Europe, you drop the kids off at school and I'll see you at 5 kind of thing.
yes, yes,
Yeah,
yes.
much
Or
better.
I mean, we just had the this week there was like a phasing. And I'm like, what's phasing? Like they're ready. They're really ready. It's been
Oh,
three
you go
months.
in for an hour, then you go in for 2 hours. Yeah, that's because so much of our educational system has nothing to do with education. You don't
Yeah.
get
Yeah.
it.
Well,
Yeah.
our kids actually, our children are actually in an amazing school. It's a Montessori Jewish school.
Montessori. Yeah.
And I'm so grateful. You know what? And you really need to be, because they are a part of the education of my children, right? And so knowing that they are in good hands, that they are getting values at school, that they are being taught to be good humans and to be responsible for their actions, that's also part of having it all. I have the peace of mind and that's a luxury, that's a
Yeah.
privilege, that my kids are surrounded by an amazing school, and I'm grateful for that, right? And yeah, when we had the kids, it was like, I remember Liam, up until he was 3 months old, like he was in the office with me. I
Mhm.
mean, I went back to work after the break, so on the ninth day I was back at work. I mean, I believe in maternity leave and all of that, but at that time I just couldn't
You
get
run your own. Yeah. We
a
don't.
run our own business.
Entrepreneurs have a different. We work on a different
Oh,
schedule.
it's a different schedule, and he was there, so I was on conference calls, breastfeeding, and then we had I think we had interns just like helping me to just have them fall asleep in the like crib, and you just ask for help. We have an amazing nanny, and I'm so grateful for her too, because without her I can't. I mean, Greg's half of the time on planes. Actually, this is interesting. My cousin came to visit us here in New York, and she lives in Israel. She came to visit for 5 days, 7 days, and she stayed with us. And she calls her children, and her youngest is 5-year-old. Our kids are 4 and 6, and she called, and the kids were crying, "Mommy, I miss you." And that triggered something in me that I had never noticed. Our kids don't cry when we leave. And I was like, all of a sudden, I realized that that's like not normal in a way, like usually, because listen, I'm out on Monday, I'm back on Wednesday, Greg's out on Thursday, he's back on Friday. Like, this is our life. I say, see you in 2 days, Liam, and he'll be like, have a safe trip, mom. See you later. And then he's hugging me when I'm back, and it's like, bye. And he's like, do you want to FaceTime? No, I'm fine. You could. Like, it's our normal. And I think when it doesn't happen well, when you're trying to make it work for what you believe society tells you that's the normal. This is our life. This is our normal. I get to do this amazing adventure with my husband, with my kids. My favorite day was when I brought my kids with me to work. We did a photo shoot for back to school, and my team was saying that they were looking for parents and kids. And I'm like, wait, we're gonna like hire actors for that? I'll do it with my sons. Greg was supposed to be in the shoot, but you know what? Life happens. All of a sudden, there was an emergency meeting. He had to fly. So the dad was not in the pictures. And that's our life, And I did this shoot with my kids. And they love it because now that picture is printed on coupons. and they have them in their backpacks, and they give them away when they see parents and they see kids, and they are in the grocery stores, and they're a part of it.
Right.
And
That's
we sell
great.
waffles and cookies and pancakes for a living.
Right,
We
right,
do.
right.
And we
So
keep it happy.
what about taking care of yourself? Like, you know, the conversation is usually around, I know, I'll be honest, with my kids, with your kids' ages, like the sleep deprivation was real. It was real. And I know they say you have to get sleep and blah, blah. It's true. But I was raising a family and running a business, and I had control over how much sleep I got or didn't get. So what was it for you? Or are you
Self-care.
just smarter than I was?
Self-care. I mean, thank God now they sleep through the night-ish.
Yeah.
So, I think I got into the realization, and I think early on in the business, it was just like 3 a.m. every night we were working.
Right.
You know what? But I have to be honest with you. Today, okay, some nights it's like we work late, but I heard, I think it was Ariana Huffington, in when she came to speak to the chief community, she shared this story about, if you ask anyone, like an entrepreneur, C-level, whatever, if you had the ability to work for 24/7 for the next 3 years, just work, you didn't have to stop for sleep, for pee, for eat, nothing. Do you think you'll ever have the feeling of saying, I'm done, close your computer? No. There will always be something, because we're wired like that. There is always something. Let me reach out to this for this opportunity, and this might be happening.
Yeah.
So I had to accept that some things will wait till tomorrow morning, right? And it is what it is. That makes me more productive when I open the computer back in the morning. I want to get a good night's sleep. I also want to read my kids' bedtime stories and give them hugs. And because I need that to refuel me.
Right.
I don't want to say that I'm great at self-care. I'm not. I find hacks to self-care.
Yeah.
I don't know, I go for a keratin treatment once every 6 months instead of going to the hairdresser every couple of weeks for a blowout when I need my hair done. Check, done. These are the things that I hack. I read a lot. That's something that I love. I read every night before bed. Sometimes it's 3 pages, sometimes it's 25, but I read without fail. And that's something that for me is self-care, I would say. But I can't say that I have figured all of that out yet.
Okay. So you're just being honest, because most of us haven't.
I'm being honest. Yep.
Most of us haven't. What do you do when you and your husband, I'll say it this way, but you can take it anyway, want to take the business in a different direction, and it's significant?
I love that question. In the beginning, when Greg and I started working together, I was like, I don't know, I'm working with my fiance. Is this going to work? I don't want to ruin this marriage thing that might happen.
Right.
And so at one point, we started to work on everything together, read this email, do this, and that started to backlash, right? Because it was just all together. And
I'm going to interrupt you. When you go to the grocery store, if you go to a grocery store, you can always tell who the newlywed couples are, because they're going to the grocery store together. They're at the cleaners together. I give that about 6 months, and then they divide and conquer.
True. Divide and conquer. So that's what we did, divide and conquer. We started doing mindfulness coaching, actually. And that significant, that was amazing for not only business or couple communication, just both of us to just get on this growth journey, personally, professionally. And anyway, what I and him understood over those times is that, you know what, out of everyone in the world, he is the one person I trust the most. And same for the other way. And so our business, our goals in life and in business are aligned. They're the same. So we might have different opinions. He might have taken a decision that is very, very different than what I would have taken. But I trust that he took that decision for the right reasons. And that, in our business and in our household is table stakes, right?
Mhm.
The trust that we're aligned in the goals and in where we're heading. And I think that unlocked just some amazing things over the
Mhm.
years for
Mhm.
us to just continue to build on. And yeah, we're like, sometimes we fight and we disagree. And then we use those tactics that any business people would use, right?
Yeah.
Okay, you say no, I say yes. Now let's
Now
switch
what?
places.
Yeah.
I argue for yes and you argue for no. And let's
Right.
just not focus on who's right. Let's
Right.
focus on what is right.
Right.
And it's the basics.
Yeah. So you use the magic word, trust,
Yes.
right? So how does the trust play into the happiness formula?
How does the trust play into the happiness formula?
You can't be happy if you don't have trust.
Yeah, you can't. You can't. I mean, I'm also, I know that about myself. Is it a strength? Is it a weakness? I think it's a question mark.
Is one strength or a weakness?
For me, I'm a very naive person. I am. I try to see, and I think Greg is the opposite of me. Like, I always see the good in people. I decide to see the good in people. I operate out of trust, not only with Greg, but with everyone. I believe that people have the right intentions and good intentions and want to do good, and that sometimes will bite me, and I will regret that. But if you're always thinking, oh, this person is out there to screw me or to
Right.
really like walk over me. And honestly, I've been walked over, right? Like, I've had friends that today are no longer friends, and that's
You know what? Calm as a bitch.
exactly. And I still
Yeah.
decide to trust, because I think that life when you trust is nicer than life when you judge and grudge and think that people really want to get you, so that's how I decide to operate. Maybe, I don't know, in 40-50 years I'll think differently about that, but I hope I don't.
I doubt it, because you really have a mindset of abundance as opposed to scarcity. And the more you put, as you know, the energy you put out, that will come back to you. Having said that, it's 80-20 rule in life. 80-20, right?
Yeah.
So I would love to interview again. I actually want to meet you. I'd love to meet you.
I love that.
But I want to respect your time. So I just have two more quick questions for you. One is, especially because you said you're a voracious reader. Wait to hear the whole question. When's the last time you reread a book and why?
I reread recently Radical Candor.
Radical Candor. Okay.
Kim Scott. I actually read it often. Radical Candor is the book we give to every person that joins our team. It's not mandatory reading, but if you want to be successful in our company,
I love it.
I think you should read it, because if you're not
Know
going to
yourself. Yeah.
right, and it's just a lingo. It's a way, that exercise that I said, you argue for yes, you argue for no, like that's from Radical Candor, and I probably shared it because I just read it again, and so that's why. So it's just these things that just keep. It's the basics, and it's a language, it's a lingo that you really need to. It's how we communicate in our organization. I don't want anyone.
They say leaders read and readers lead, right? And I can hear that you like to read and then operationalize it. Like I can hear that.
I love to learn. I'm a big learner. I
Growth mindset.
love to learn. I feel like I learn every day something new. I have no idea how to be a CEO of a company that's tomorrow's days old. I've never done it. Like, I've never done it. I'm not a second, third, fourth time CEO. This is the first, when you are in a relationship and you're like, I remember with Greg, at one point we're like, oh my God, this is my longest relationship to date. And then
You didn't share that before, but I get it.
and then it was like for him, because he had been in longer relationships, and they're like, oh my God, this is my longest relationship to date. And now you're like, we sort of stopped counting, but it's like a marriage. You have no idea. I've never been married before. I've never been a mom before. I know how to be a wife yesterday. I know how to be a mom yesterday. Tomorrow, I will learn something new. And I love that. It
Yeah.
scares me, but I love it.
Well, they say even, who you are after this podcast is not who you were before the podcast.
For sure.
Because you're learning and growing. Great. That's great. And then what's the one song that you can't live without?
Song? Dancing in the Moonlight. It's
Oh my gosh, I love it. Why?
It's my good vibe songs. I just like every time I have an important call before, I just turn on the music, I start dancing. Every big moment, I just
everybody.
Yes.
How can you not move, right?
How can you? And the weirdest thing is that sometimes this song shows up in like important moments in my life when I don't control it. Like I land on a very important meetings flight, and all of a sudden there's this song, and I'm just like, oh my God, this is a sign. And like it's just
it is. And it is a sign.
Yeah.
And it is a sign. All right. This was great. So unabashedly promote your company. Tell people where you would like them to go to learn more about Belgian Boys, to learn more about you, to find out how they can get your products. Go for it.
For sure. Thank you. And thanks for that. So you can find Belgian Boys in stores nationwide at Target, Walmart, Publix, Kroger, Costco, Whole Foods, Sprouts, and many other retailers. You can learn more about our
BJ's?
brand.
You didn't mention BJ's.
BJ's, yes.
Okay, just checking.
And you can learn more about our brand on our website, belgianboys.com. Follow us on social, on Instagram. We have a very, very cool TikTok. If you're on TikTok, follow us there.
And the Belgian Boys.
Yes, Belgian Boys. And if you're looking to connect with me, I'm most active on LinkedIn, Anouck Gotlib, and you can find me right there.
Great, because I just linked in with you. I think it's pending. Anyway, thank you so much.
Right now.
Thank you so much. This was such a treat. It was such a different conversation. So I know the listeners are going to love it. And I thank you for your time. I thank you for your passion. I thank you for just being who you are. And I'm going to follow you. And I can't wait to see you on the cover of Fortune or Entrepreneurial Magazine.
From your mouth to God's
ears. So
I love it. But thank you for hosting me. Thank you for the inspiration that you give. Podcast is my thing. I love it. I love to listen to podcasts. I learn more, and hopefully I could add some value to your listeners.
Great.